Greetings, opera lovers. Live from Bloomfield, Connecticut, it's Rona Sutton. Yesterday, I went to the Metropolitan Opera House to hear and see Luisa Miller by Verdi. Before I went, a long time before I went, I didn't know anything about this opera except for one aria, the tenor one, Quando le sere al Placido, a concert staple. Not one other note of music did I know. So I began studying it, starting about 2 or 3 months ago. And what I found is that it's a great score. And if you didn't know it was Middle Verdi, or early Middle Verdi actually, you would just say it's a total masterpiece. And I don't understand why it isn't more popular, but then again, I don't understand a lot of things. And so before I go on to tell you what I thought, this is just a general thing about what I feel I can do best on these little overviews, and that is fill in a little space in between some of the written reports that you can read in various news outlets or online. For instance, I cannot write as beautifully as Zachary Wolfe, who I think is just a poet at writing about opera. Nor am I as educated, or do I write as correctly or speak as correctly probably as Anthony Tomasini. And his reviews are very widely read. And to me, they're kind of vanilla. He never goes out of his way to praise someone to the sky, nor does he ever criticize anyone very harshly. And then there's James Jordan, whose reviews are very out there. He likes to sort of say things that will grab your attention. And so where do I fit in? Well, I'd like to think that I have a special niche, and that is to report as someone who actually knows something about music, although I'm not an expert, somebody who knows something about music, about how ordinary people feel about the opera and how moved we can be. For instance, did you ever remember reading an opera review saying, I cried at that moment? I don't think so. Or that was horrible? Well, you won't get me to say that was horrible. What you'll usually hear is that if I don't like something, you're not going to hear about it too much. Sometimes I might say I don't like that person singing, but I'll rarely say they're a bad singer, because you know what? They're not. If they're singing on a major stage in the world, they've got something to offer. Maybe I don't care for it, but it's something worthwhile. So yesterday, Mr. Opera and I had the best seats we've ever had. We were in the grand tier in the first row on the side. It was a fantastic view. We could see the conductor, all the stage, all the orchestra members. And when the conductor, Bertrand de Billy, put down his hands for the downbeat of that beautiful sinfonia, which I love. And I love it because the little themes come here and there in the opera, and they come back at the end. And during this playing of the sinfonia, he was able to draw out so many details that on many recordings I don't hear. The little swells and coming backs and dynamics, the tremendous drive towards the end. And yet with that drive, you know, if it's too much, you think, okay, now we could go home. That's the end. But no, he just drove it far enough and fast enough with enough thrust that at the end we were ready for the opera. So a couple of years ago, I heard William Tell, and that overture, that performance with Fabio Luisi conducting, I think will remain the #1 great overture I have heard at the Met with that fantastic orchestra. But this one, #2, it was superb. Okay, enough about the introduction. Then we get down to the opera. You'll all have to excuse me. I had to write some notes. As most of you know, I'm past 70, and my memory isn't as good as it never was, but it's worse. So I have to try to remember what I want to tell you. So the curtain went up, and what did we get? We got those really drab sets. They're very generic. They could have been used for, I don't know, almost any of Verdi's operas. It could have been Rigoletto, could have been whatever. A lot of operas that I don't know. Could have been the beginning of not just Verdi, many other operas. And although it didn't distract or take away from anything, I mean, really, you go to the Met, you pay all that money. They hire top directors, top set designers. Why can't they do something special? But who cares? I don't go for the sets. Enough about the sets. Let's get right down to the nitty gritty. The singers. How did they do? Well, I have to say, I have not one complaint about any of the singers. They were all terrific. So let's start with the ones that are, in my opinion, maybe the least important. And one of the stars who's least important plays Laura, or Laura, as she's called in Italian. This was done by a young mezzo named Rehab Chaeb. I hope I've pronounced her name correctly. First of all, she's gorgeous to look at. What a beautiful voice she has. And she acquitted herself tremendously. Remember, she was singing with some of the top name singers in the world, and her voice stood out to me and to my husband as well. We both thought she was outstanding. I had heard her previously on the radio as Lola in Cavalleria, and she was very good, but she didn't stand out as much as here. I think it's just the perfect role for her. Okay, good luck to you, Miss Chaeb. Next in line was the woman who played Frederica, Olesya Petrova. Yes, that's her name. From Russia. Very, very credible. I have not one complaint. No, I don't think she's going to be the next Shirley Verrett, but when you get a singer like that at the Met, you've gotten your money's worth. Then we have the two lower-voiced men, the two bassos, playing Wurm and Walter. And they were both outstanding. They're both from Russia. So I have to read this because their names are they have a lot of syllables. Playing Wurm was Dmitry Beloselsky, and playing Count Walter was Alexander Vinogradov. Both terrific. I thought Vinogradov had a little more grit in his voice. It had a little more overall presence. But in terms of smoothness, I thought Beloselsky had actually a smoother kind of sound. I enjoyed them both tremendously. I look forward to them both having excellent careers at the Met. And then, of course, we get to the three principals. We're going to leave Mr. Domingo for last. Starting off with Miss Yoncheva, as I hear her name pronounced. Well, I just love her, so there. And all the people who nitpick about her high note, it sounds like it has a wobble, or she didn't hit that note so perfectly. Get real. Do you have any idea what it takes to sing a role like this? It would be like saying if you went to a first-class restaurant and you were given this beautiful dinner and rice was on the side and you said, oh my gosh, that grain of rice has a little black dot on it. I don't think this is a really great meal. Really? Okay, so I just think she's terrific. She does everything wonderfully, and her voice is heartbreakingly beautiful. And I think this is the perfect role for her because the emotion that she can put in and the timbre of her voice fit Luisa to a T. And I love Luisa's music. I love that first act aria where she goes da 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 da. It's just such a toony little thing, and it's just a perfect way to start the opera. And then it gets dark, 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 and darker. And then, of course, she has two other highlights. Where in the second act, she's been confronted to write the false letter, and she has to bare her soul. How can you do this to me? And she was just riveting in this. And then in the third act, when she has the duet with her father, tears came to my eyes. You see, you won't read that in the New York Times. It was really gorgeous. Miss Yoncheva, yes, I love you. Okay. Going on, next is Piotr Bachelor. I have to say I love him too. I've heard him sing for years live at the Met. He's a phenomenon. He's just, he's perfect. He just has a gorgeous voice. He's a wonderful actor. He's a sterling musician. He's a great stylist. And yet I heard complaints from all my various sources. And so I'd like to just address, without saying exactly what I heard a complaint about, I'd like to address what I think about this. So when you get a little older, things may not come as easily as they did when you were 35 or 40. Mr. Bachelor is in his young 50s. Now he has to work a little harder. I am more impressed to hear how hard he works. It doesn't take away anything from me. He has all the high notes. They're all beautiful. He has all the phrasing. It's all gorgeous. He's older. There's a new maturity. He's just fantastic. And so to anybody who has a negative comment about him, go away. All right, there, I've said it. Okay, now we get to Mr. Placido Domingo. I was not looking forward to this. I almost didn't buy the ticket to the opera just because he was singing, and I can't stand to hear him sing in the repertoire that he does now, the baritone repertoire. You know what? I was wrong, because he brings something different. You really cannot go around comparing Placido Domingo to other singers today. He's in a class by himself, and the audience loves him. So in his first act aria, and all of a sudden I've forgotten the name, it's a tough piece, and I don't know why it's not performed more in concert. I really didn't know it at all until I started studying this opera. It's way better. It's a way better piece than, let's say, something like Il Baleine or the Elder Drumont's aria in La Traviata. That's just my opinion. I just think it's terrific, especially as it has a beautiful cabaletta at the end. It's thrilling. It's just, you want to get up. It's just a great piece of music. And of course, he has to sing a lot in this opera. And Mr. Domingo got a little tired here and there. Did I care? He was so terrific. He brings a lot to a role. He still is stylistically wonderful. I have to tell you, I'm going to try something new in here. I'm going to try to put in a photo that I took at the Met. Hopefully when you watch this, it'll be there. I took a picture of the audience standing up at the end of the opera. It was one of the most moving things. He came out for his solo bow, and like on cue, everybody stood up. How could you not? And the house lights went up, so everybody could see everybody standing. See, even as I'm talking about this, I'm getting emotional. You're going to read that in the New York Times? So I hope I've filled in some blanks for you, what it was like being there at the Met. Just a beautiful day, beautiful memories, great singing all around. This is why I go to the opera, to be moved, to enjoy myself, to hear great compositions. In some other reviews that I've done, I've been doing them a lot, I've mentioned who the hero was. One time I remember I said that the star of the night was Yannick Nézet-Séguin, when I really didn't know his name at all. I'm going to tell you who the star of this night was. Verdi. Yes. We don't often give the composer enough credit. We really should. It was just terrific. Okay, everybody. Thank you for indulging me in voicing my opinions. Have a great day.